Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees get swept by the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. So the Yankees are swept for the first time this season and at the hands of their division rival, the Boston Red Sox, after they lost 2 of 3 last week in Yankee Stadium. So really bad in many, many ways. The offense is completely shut down by the Red Sox at Fenway Park, which is a place that you just score runs. You kind of just, I mean, it basically, it's a ballpark that you're not even necessarily hitting at your best, and you can kind of walk your way into a decent amount of runs. And basically, they were nearly, you could argue, I mean, they were nearly shut out in all 3 games. They basically, in game 1, it was an Aaron Judge home run to tie it up in the 9th. Besides that, he was absolutely terrible. But that was a big moment that the Yankees lost in extra innings. We'll talk a lot about game 1. Game 2, another situation, and off of Hunter Dobbins. I mean, the first game was at least Garrett Crochet. You could understand that more. Games 2 and 3, Hunter Dobbins, who makes those ridiculous comments about retiring before he'd ever signed with the Yankees, and Yankees were able to, kind of a too little, too late situation there. I mean, the Yankees never had a lead in this series at all. They get shut down by Brayan Bello in game 3, who's been horrendous this season by and large. So the Yankees dropped to 42 and 28. Red Sox now, the Yankees had a chance to really put the Red Sox not out of it when you're talking, there's so much time left in the season, but it went from the Red Sox really kind of meandering around and not looking great to now probably feeling pretty good about themselves. And, the Yankees find themselves, as far as the division goes, they're 4 up on the loss side of the Rays, 5 up on the loss side of the Blue Jays, and now 8 up on the loss side of the Red Sox. So 42 and 28. Overall, good record. It's a 600 winning percentage, but it's unfortunate. The only team now, which is kind of crazy, that has not been swept yet this season in the series is the Cincinnati Reds, which is pretty crazy considering their record is 37 and 35, but they are the only team now that has not been swept. And for it to be at the hands of the Red Sox is just highly frustrating. Not only was the offense really bad, you had horrendous base running. 3 big ones, one in game 1, one in game 2, one in game 3. Different, they're different in their own right, but they all really involve basically poor decision making, whether that be via the manager Aaron Boone, or just falling asleep on the bases, like sloppy play all the way around. It brought you back to last year, and again, what is up with fucking this terrible play against the division? These teams, and maybe it is a matter of scouting report and just knowing your enemy well, because the Yankees are now 8 and 11 against the division. They are 34 and 17 against the rest of the league, which is, of course, that's 667 winning percentage, which is, amazing. But against the division, it's a problem. And the Yankees, there's going to be a lot more division games to go the rest of the way. And, come playoff time, if I'm the Yankees, I'm not looking to play any division teams. That's for sure. Right. I mean, sans maybe the Tigers. I'm not looking to play any of these divisional teams. I'd much prefer to play basically anyone out of the West. And that includes the Astros. They're actually pretty hot right now. They're not that far behind the Yankees. So things are definitely tightening up. And that does tend to happen, right? Like, even in good times, you're always going to face adversity. But like, it's frustrating that Fenway Park, to me, it's been a bit of a house of horrors. Not every single season, but generally it feels like it has been. And just playing the Red Sox in general, regardless of how good the Boston team is, they play the Yankees very, very well. So, really, really frustrating coming off of a sweep against the Royals, in which the offense really wasn't great there either by the end of the series. The Yankees, they've broken out for big innings, and give them credit for it. And they lead based on a lot of the top offensive categories, but yet there's a little bit of a feast or famine way to the Yankees offense. There just is. And the problem that I have is you have to find ways to hit. If Aaron Judge can't get it going, you have to basically be able to still function. And we don't know that they can. And he struck out 9 times in this series. That is beyond brutal. And they've had his number too. Whereas Rafael Devers owns the Yankees, and yet again he homers in this series. It wasn't one of the classic Devers series against the Yanks, and it was another fucking situation where it was former Yankees getting it done in big, big ways. Carlos Narvaez walk-off hit Friday night, and then did well even the next night too. Rob Refsnyder getting hit after hit. Um, Saves by Greg Weissert and then Garrett Whitlock. Now, Garrett Whitlock wasn't on the Yankees, but he was in their organization. So, Aroldis Chapman, which I didn't read up on this, but I'm assuming he was unavailable, for Alex Cora. I mean, nothing that seemed serious. He was laughing in the bullpen. So something that I guess is more of a day-to-day thing that kept him out, but um, very frustrating in that regard as well. So let's just jump right in. Friday night ends up being a game. That was the one on paper that looked like a definite loss. And in hindsight, and in reality, that was the one that ended up being their best chance to win. As that one actually goes to extra innings, you almost basically stole a win in a matchup between Ryan Yarbrough and Garrett Crochet. And this was a game that, I felt as if um you might see something like this last Saturday at Yankee Stadium, but it ended up being high scoring. That was the frustrating thing is Yankees actually got to Crochet, but Yarbrough was bad. Here, Yarbrough was really solid. Didn't go deep, but gave the Yankees what they needed. 4 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. The Yankee pitching did well. I'm going to give a little bit of criticism to Carlos Rodon once we get to game two, but Yarbrough does the job to the best of his abilities, really, in game one in a tough spot. I mean, Fenway Park is not easy on lefty pitching, and he did the job. But Garrett Crochet was brilliant up until allowing a home run to Aaron Judge in the ninth. He almost went complete game shutout. 8 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts for Crochet, who is, one of the best pitchers in baseball, and has a really bright future. For the Yankees, what I'll say as well before going into the lineups and such, Giancarlo Stanton, who they really could have used, did not play. He was not activated for the series. The hope and expectation is that he'll be activated for either game one or two of the Angels series coming up. So the Yankees can really use Giancarlo back, given what they're doing right now. And it sucks that they couldn't have him for this Red Sox series. For game one, the odd man out of the lineup would be Trent Grisham. Um, and, you know, Jazz Chisholm Jr. at that point was still kind of coming back from that groin tightness. So he was out for game one as well. Um, but yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot to speak of in terms of Yankee opportunities. So we'll try to touch on those when they come about. But Boston, they did play a very, very crisp series that I mean, not to say there weren't mistakes. Like Boston's not a great defensive team, and they did have some miscues there, but really they were the better team. They deserved this sweep. Bottom of the second is where the Red Sox scored their run before, scoring their second run at the bottom of the 10th. But Trevor Story, that's the frustrating thing too, who has really been bad as a Red Sox, whether it be by injury or just poor play. Leadoff single for Story. He's still second, the next batter, and then with one out, Rafaela RBI single to give the Red Sox a 1-0 lead. Where the Yankees have really their best opportunity would be the top of the fifth, where Dominguez reaches on an error by Abraham Toro, the third baseman. Then Dominguez still second. Then you're going to DJ LeMahieu opposite field single. And what I'll say about LeMahieu on the positive is that in this game, he was stinging the ball. We'll actually talk about a play in the 10th that happens that's controversial, but LeMahieu was hitting the ball hard, didn't have the luck to show for it, although LeMahieu, really frustrating. We'll talk about in game three, a really bad strikeout as well. So it's hard. I want to get over that LeMahieu hump, and I just can't quite get there. But first and third, no out. Austin Wells strikes out against Crochet. And look, not going to be mad at Wells. It sucks because you needed it, but Wells, he had been doing well lately. He even did well against Crochet. So he's capable of it, but he strikes out. Then Peraza strikes out. And I mean, this guy he can't hit. He simply cannot hit. Maybe a change of scenery does something for him, but talk about a guy whose value has just completely sunk. Would someone shape Peraza? Yeah, but you're not getting much of anything back for him. It's just unfortunate. He, at this point, is hitting 160 with a 538 OPS. So he's 25 years old now. Any sort of long-term value there was in Oswald Peraza to me is gone. He's been given enough opportunity. It's unfortunate sort of with his development what happened, but at this point it's on you. And he strikes out there, and then Goldschmidt grounds out. So a big missed opportunity for the Yankees to at least tie the game. They don't. And then Jonathan Loaisiga comes in for Yarbrough in the fifth. He does a really nice job. So a couple of decent outings in a row for Loaisiga, more than decent. He gets 4 outs, gets a couple of strikeouts within that. Um, a Volpe leadoff single in the seventh leads to then a double play by Dominguez there. So nothing to show for it. That inning, Ian Hamilton, he gets 4 outs himself, and that's good to see because, again, Hamilton's had his struggles this year, but pitches into the eighth. And then at that point, it would be Fernando Cruz coming on with 1 out, 1 on, and he got in a little bit of trouble. It was a wild pitch. There was a couple of walks, and then he falls behind Trevor Story, but luckily on a 2-0, Story flies out to, I believe, the track in front of the Green Monster to keep it at 1-0. So Cruz, the numbers aren't terrible, and he's getting strikeouts, but I feel like he's just been a little bit ineffective before he got hurt, and then since. But anyway, we go to the ninth. Crochet's got a decent pitch count, going for the complete game shutout, and with 1 out after Judge was 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts against Crochet last week, and then here, combined, full count, he deposits a mammoth blast, 443 feet over the Green Monster to tie it up. That was quite a moment. That gets dulled by the result of the game. Let's be honest. The Yankees won that game, it would have been more epic. But still, I don't want to take anything away from that because it was, really amazing given everything, the matchup, the stakes, and he ties it up 1-1. And then Chapman comes in and gets the final 2 outs in that ninth inning. Again, he must have maybe gotten hurt there, or maybe they were just trying to stay away from him. The fact that the Red Sox stayed away from Saturday and Sunday tells you that he's dealing with something, but that's Boston's concern. And then at the bottom of the ninth, good job by Cruz riding the ship. He gets a couple of outs, and then Tim Hell gets the final out of the ninth. And remember, at this point, based on the Kansas City series, they wanted to stay away from Devin Williams and Mark Leonard Jr. So you're dealing with a bit of a thin pen. I think Scott Effross, who didn't appear in any of the games, I think he was warming up at one point, maybe in that eighth inning in this game. So Garrett Whitlock comes on, and here we go with the bullshit. The Yankees now have had 6 road extra inning spots this year and have 0 runs to show for it. 2 innings against Pittsburgh, 2 innings against the Mariners, 1 inning here against the Red Sox, and then one's escaping me at the moment. But again, the Rays. The Rays, it was 1 inning. That was the Devin Williams 4-run blown lead in the ninth. They scored no runs, not tied. That's incredible. And they are now 12 and I believe 26 since they implemented the second runner on second in extra innings. The worst road record in extra innings. That's horrible. And that's a huge sample size. And that's just lack of fundamentals. Well, what happens here? It's something new. And the Yankees, they find ways. Volpe gets caught stealing third. And Boone defended the hell out of it, but I totally disagree with him. You better make sure that you're safe there, like by a mile. And, he said that, Volpe's slide, he kind of got caught, otherwise he's been safe. I don't even care. That can't be close. He has to know he's making that. He can't make the first out in that situation, and he's caught stealing, and it killed the inning. That you cannot do that in that fucking situation. Then Dominguez strikes out, and then, let's see. Okay, so Boone gets ejected during the DJ LeMahieu at bat, where LeMahieu hits a shot that looked like it was probably fair down the right field line. Now, here's the thing. He might not have even gotten a double out of this, but let's say he did. At best, it's runner on second, 2 outs. So there's a solid shot the Yankees wouldn't have scored anyway, but Boone's frustrated by everything that's going on. He gets ejected by John Tompane, and then LeMahieu grounds out, and then as he's running off, he gets ejected by first baseman Jeremy Rehak. And LeMahieu didn't say much. It was a pretty quick hook. But Boone and LeMahieu ejected. We go to the bottom of the 10th, and it looked like, and by the way, Pablo Reyes replaces LeMahieu at second. It looked like Tim Hill was going to get out of it. Duran ground out, which gets Hamilton over to third. Intentionally walks Devers, which makes sense. I don't care that it's lefty-lefty. That is the right thing. Yankees bring in 5 infielders. The next batter, Marcelo Meyer, strikes out against Hill. Now it leads you to a situation of runner on third, 2 out for the former Yankee Carlos Narvaez. And Narvaez, it would have been prudent for the Yankees to maybe walk him. And Boone conceded that he did, that was a consideration to pitch around him. But Tim Hill gets ahead of him. Carlos Narvaez chases a pitch out of the zone, and it puts Hill in a situation where he's ahead in the count. And eventually, Narvaez hits one off of the Green Monster with 2 strikes. I think it was a 1-2 count for the walk-off hit. With Roman Anthony, the rookie, was on deck, and Hill is much better against lefties. Again, it's more unfortunate than anything because it does sound like they really were gonna, maybe pitch around him. Because I understand not intentionally walking him. I do, because to set up the bases loaded, like we saw Hill, walk Conforto in that Dodger game with the bases loaded. It can happen. And Anthony does have a decent eye for a young player. So, but it sucks, right? Like, because it looked like maybe they're gonna get out of it. But the Yankees lose. That was a really tough one, given the judge, the way that they tied it. But they lose. But you're thinking, okay, at this point, all right, well, Yankees won the first game at Yankee Stadium, and the Red Sox won the next 2. Let's return the favor. That does not happen here. And it's Hunter Dobbins that stifles the Yankees, what makes it even more frustrating. Dobbins, who is a rookie, and, maybe there's hope for him to become a good pitcher. I'm not ruling that out, but he's got, to me, fairly ordinary stuff. But he has been pretty solid, right? To me, this is not as egregious as Brayan Bello. What makes this bad is the Dobbins comments. And the fact that he got the win last week as well. So here in game 2, the odd man out would actually be Cody Bellinger. So interesting that Cody Bellinger, who's in this rotation, sat a game against the Dodgers and sat a game against the Red Sox. So clearly, like, they're not necessarily putting stock in who it's against. But Chisholm Jr. is back in the lineup here. And Carlos Rodon doesn't get the job done. He wasn't bad, but, for the fact he wasn't good last week, I need Rodon in a couple of national televised games against your rival. I need better. So Rodon drops to 8-5 with the loss, 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 3 of those earned, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. ERA is now above 3 at 3.01. Look, it's not a disaster, but, like, I don't like that. Again, looking for a lot more after he really shit his pants by the end of that last game on Sunday Night Baseball at Yankee Stadium. On the other side, Hunter Dobbins goes 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. A very impressive line, and that gets him to 4-1. So here, the Red Sox get on the board in the first inning, and they do that again in game 3. And look, they had the second inning run in game 1. So early runs for the Red Sox, not a lot of them, but setting the tone. And it's a 2-out situation. After a leadoff double by Refsnyder, it seemed like the Yankees were going to get out of it. That's the problem with this series, where it seemed like the Yankees had trouble with the Red Sox seemed to have got on a lot leadoff. But then the Yankees would work their way back, only for the Red Sox to demoralize them with 2 outs. And Carlos Narvaez hits a ground ball into the hole at short. Volpe tries to make a play at first. I can't really fault Volpe. He's got to try to get him out. It's a throw that's a little offline, and Goldschmidt does the right thing by going off the bag to prevent, it going behind him. But he's not able to keep it in front of him, and Refsnyder scores in the play. Goldschmidt, you can't let that happen. Goldschmidt's been very good defensively, but he has to, at all costs, have that stay in front of him. So now it's 1-0 Red Sox because of that error. So an underrun against Rodon in that situation. From there, I mean, again, not many chances against Dobbins to speak of. At the bottom of the 4th, it would be a leadoff double for Carlos Narvaez on a play that was a bit of a misconnection between Dominguez and LeMahieu. They could have had Narvaez out. I kind of put more of the blame on LeMahieu for not scooping the ball at second, but maybe you could put the blame on Dominguez as well. It's kind of a collective effort. And then with 1 out, it's a Trevor Story RBI double. So Story getting him on the act again makes it 2-0. And on this play, not a great job by Grisham or Volpe, where Grisham, as he does, he's very sort of lackadaisical out there. He's a great fielder, but he's, kind of lackadaisical. And Story takes advantage of that. And then Volpe was unaware that Story was even coming in at second. So just kind of falling asleep at the wheel there, makes it 2-0. And then the bottom of the 5th, a leadoff hit by pitch by Christian Campbell, which you can't have. To be fair, Campbell didn't exactly try to get out of the way. but it stands nonetheless. And then with 2 out, Romy Gonzalez, another guy. They got guys that are really good against lefties. I mean, namely Restiner and Gonzalez. But it would be an RBI double for Gonzalez to make it 3-0 Red Sox. Then at the bottom of the sixth, where I think I would have taken out Rodon, they leave him in to face Story. He already did well against him, and he gets a double to start the inning. I think I would have given him the hook. So then De Los Santos comes on, and De Los Santos actually did a very good job. He ends up going 3 innings of scoreless ball, but he does allow an inherited run to score, and good fundamentals by the Red Sox. Rafaela sack bunt to get the runner over to third, and then Marcelo Meyer sack fly makes it 4-0 Red Sox. That fourth run would end up being kind of the winning run for Boston. Luis Guerrero comes in for the Red Sox in the seventh. The Yankees start to get things going. Goldschmidt walk, Chisholm Jr. walk, and then a Volpe sort of flare out to short. Did not like that at bat where Guerrero was throwing balls and Volpe on a high and inside pitch that would have been a ball just pops out to short. Then Dominguez singles. I was surprised that they left in Guerrero. They had Justin Wilson, the lefty, warming up, and an RBI single for Dominguez makes it 4-1. And then Austin Wells, lefty off of Justin Wilson, gets an RBI single to cut it now to 4-2. Then DJ LeMahieu strikes out, so not a good at bat for DJ. And that wouldn't be the last time that we'd see him struggle against a lefty in a big spot late. And then you have just a baffling situation where with Trent Grisham up, Grisham swings a swing and a miss to make it 2-2, and Dominguez thought it was strike 3, so he's stuck stranded in the middle between second and third, and they end up tagging him out at third. So Dominguez just falling asleep, not knowing the situation, not knowing how many strikes there were. You cannot have that happen. Again, does Grisham necessarily do anything? No, not necessarily, but that's just inexcusable. Score remains 4-2. We go to the ninth, and Greg Weissert, the former Yankee, comes on. Leadoff double by Paul Goldschmidt. But then from there, and Chisholm Jr. and Volpe both with ground outs, which lead to a run being scored to make it 4-3. And then Dominguez with a double to make it runner on second, 2 out, Austin Wells. And Wells gets into one, but it's only got warning track power. Hit well, 365 feet to center field, but caught by Rafaela. So a bit of a tough way to go where just too little too late. Had some good at-bats there off of Weissert, but ultimately they go down and they lose the series. Now they try to avoid their first sweep of the season, and they don't avoid it, even with the stopper Max Fried on the mound. So Fried had been undefeated, and the team was undefeated in games he pitched after a Yankee loss. Not so much anymore, but he pitched well. The loss drops him to 9-2, 7 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts. ERA sits at 1.89, and he's only had one start where he's led more than 2 earned runs, and that was the one against the Dodgers. That was his one bad outing. I mean, he's really had just an amazing season, but the Yankee offense gets shut down by Brayan Bello. The win moves him up to 3-1, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts for a guy that has not gotten strikeouts this year. But when Aaron Judge is striking out 3 times a game, that's going to happen. Odd man out of this lineup was Paul Goldschmidt. He would come in to pinch hit. Austin Wells gets a day off, so JC Escarra would get the nod behind the plate. And this one, DJ LeMahieu would also be on the bench. So Peraza started at second. LeMahieu would pinch hit, which we'll talk about later. First inning, leadoff double for Trent Grisham, and the Yankees are unable to do anything with that. Rice pop out, Judge strikeout, Bellinger walk, and a Chisholm Jr. ground out. So no score there off of Bello. Then in the first, with 2 out, Romy Gonzalez triples. And could Cody Bellinger have played this better? I don't know. That's a tricky right field at Fenway Park. But then Trevor Story dunks him an RBI single to make it 1-0. That's a big 2-out hit for the Red Sox. And they would keep that lead the rest of the way. And the third inning is where you have another base running blunder by the Yankees. This is shit that we fucking saw last season that clearly is not gone. Ben Rice, who also fucked up in Detroit earlier in the year. This is not the first time that Rice has struggled on the base paths. And apparently, this was a play that could have been a double steal. But you know what? There's 2 outs. I have a problem with that, honestly. And so he's basically not assertive there. And he gets caught while Jazz Chisholm Jr. was up. And again, they may not have scored there, But to give the Red Sox easy outs like that is awful. I mean, again, basically 3 games in a row, but especially games 2 and 3 with Dominguez in game 2 and Rice in game 3. Um, a Volpe double play, and I felt as if Volpe had been turning things around, but, then he kind of leaves the series not a great place. I don't know. Like, I felt Volpe was getting hot offensively, but not so much here. He hits a double play. Bottom of the 5th, 2 out. Rafael Devers home run to the opposite field, right over the Green Monster, right off the top of the wall and out. His 15th homer of the year, makes it 2-0 Boston. Fucking Bello threw like 114 pitches, was it, I think? Yeah, 114 for Bello through 7. Just insane. In the 8th is where the Yankees get their big chance. Off of Brennan Bernardino, the lefty, who the Yankees do well against. Goldschmidt pinch hit single, Grisham lefty single. And now the Yankees pinch hit LeMahieu for Ben Rice. If it were me, I would have left Rice in there, but it's not as if I get it though. Like, Rice isn't great against lefties. Bernardino has neutral splits. It's not like he's like this Tim Hill lefty specialist necessarily. So they go to LeMahieu and he strikes out looking. And you can't have that. Right down the middle. Just doesn't even swing. And then Garrett Whitlock comes on, who's been great lately for the Red Sox, and Aaron Judge, he doesn't strike out. He does something actually worse, grabs him to double play. And the score's 2-0. That, to me, that was your game right there. The Yankees had a chance to turn it around. LeMahieu, bad strikeout, and Judge double play. 8th inning, Mark Lauder Jr. pitches a scoreless 8th, and then the 9th off of Whitlock, who stayed in there. Bellinger ground out, Chisholm Jr. strikeout, Volpe strikeout, ball game, sweep for the Red Sox. And now the Yankees will go home for a 7-game homestand against the Angels and the Orioles. So in the Angels case, they actually just got swept by the Orioles, and they were turning things. The Angels were actually playing some pretty good ball, despite the fact that the Yankees swept the Angels in Anaheim. But really, ever since then, Mike Trout came back, and they were kind of playing better. And I would expect them to be better than what they were in California. But here are the 4 pitching matchups. And again, we hope to see Stanton back early in the series, whether it be game 1 or 2. Pitching matchup for game 1 for the Angels is actually Jose Soriano, who his numbers on the whole aren't great, but he's coming off of a really good outing against the A's. So maybe that gets him going. But again, you look at these numbers, not great strikeout stuff and a high whip. But we saw that with Brayan Bello, and it didn't matter. For the Yankees, it's Clark Schmidt, who's going to look to continue what he did against Kansas City in his last outing. Again, and the Yankees are looking to avoid a 4-game losing streak for the first time this year. So that streak is right now still intact. The most of the Yankees have lost in a row this year is 3. Hopefully they continue that. Kyle Hendricks, who has struggled, the former Cub, as an Angel, against Will Warren. And Warren's coming off of a good outing as well. So that's game 2. Game 3, it'll be who the Yankees actually did see in Anaheim. It'll be Jack Kahanowitz against Ryan Yarbrough. And I can't remember. I didn't look back to see if that was a direct head-to-head matchup, but I do know that Yarbrough did pitch. It might have been, but I know that Yarbrough pitched well in that matchup. So they're going to see him again, and then they're going to see Rodon again, just as the Yankees are going to see Tyler Anderson. So both of those may be head-to-heads. Either way, it's rematches of some kind, and it's Tyler Anderson, the lefty, against the lefty Carlos Rodon there. So, Yankees got to turn it around. Home should treat them better. They've been better at home overall, and the Yankees have done well in non-AL East games. And, the Yankees will play the Orioles after this, and an Orioles team that's starting to get things going a little bit. So I think it's imperative the Yankees take 3 of 4 in this series against the Angels, but it's coming off of a very, very disappointing and frustrating sweep. Their first time they've been swept this year, and it's at the hands of their biggest rival, the Boston Red Sox. They leave Fenway Park, and they're going to head home, and they're going to try to find answers. They now sit at 42-28, and a very frustrating weekend for the New York Yankees.